discovered every metric that anybody would ever want to run their business, so we're just going to give it to everybody. You know, and being a guy from, I live in Maine in the summer, but I'm actually from Jersey. So being a guy from Jersey, you know, well, first thing I did the consultant. I, you know, rub the chin and go, interesting, very interesting, you know. And then, meanwhile, I'm thinking in my head, are you guys crazy? Are you smoking crack? Why are you building a dashboard like this? And when it came down to it, they didn't go through understanding the workflows that the business would go through and just said, let's push it out and let's let people do that. If you do that, Chief Performance Officer does not succeed. The other thing that it does is this whole thing about traceability up here. This is critical in today's business. Not only from, you know, all the Sarbanes-Oxley stuff, which, by the way, was the best way for funding projects previously, but understanding traceability as the metrics move throughout the organization. So if I make these changes in my sales system, what ultimately would be the impact on customer sat, what ultimately would be the impact on margin, very much a strategy map type of situation. It ensures traceability when you do this if you have less metrics. If you have too many metrics trying to connect all the dots, you're never going to connect all the dots. There's too many permutations. Again, I'm not saying you don't need those thousands of metrics and dozens of KPIs, but the job of CPO is to get inside the heads of business and understand which ones really matter. So those first 3 C's were about the data. Well, you know, we collect, consolidate, condense. You know, it sounds pretty familiar to a lot of us in data warehousing, business intelligence. It's kind of what we live, just taking a little different spin on it. But now the next thing is to think about communicating. And this is, okay, we've built it, now how do we get it out to people? As compared to, just locking it up somewhere. So for this information, we want to be able to communicate the data out and get people the right data at the right time, but don't kill a fly with a sledgehammer with real time. Let me give you a real-time story. Worked with a financial services organization. They had 11 different ledgers running around the world, and I dealt with the IT people in supporting the finance organization. They called me in and they said, we want you to help us with designing a dashboard so that anytime a journal entry goes into one of the 11 ledgers around the world, journal ledger being the most granular piece of data in the general ledger, we want a little tachometer to go up and down like this to show the activity of the CFO. So, you know, being a good consultant, I rub my, interesting, you know, and I'm thinking these guys are nuts. And when you dug down to what was really required, finance was upset because they weren't getting mid-month visibility into the data. So they went to the IT department and said, I need to get the data faster. IT was afraid to engage with the business and just said, well, faster, I'll give them as fast as I can. So I'm getting them a real-time system at the most granular piece of data. And in the end, all they really need to do is provide mid-month information to somebody. The CPO needs to understand how to leverage technology, not just throw technology at it. It's so relevant in today's business. I mean, I don't have to tell you how hard it is to get, you know, anything funded, even buying a new PC in an organization. If you can leverage what's out there and show that you can change performance, you will be the chief performance officer in the organization. So use latency as your advantage, not a disadvantage. You know, data has a shelf life, data has a freshness state. Let it expire out a little bit. I mean, nobody wants to drink day-old milk, but you're not going to get sick from drinking day-old milk. Week-old milk you will, but day-old milk you're not going to get sick from. Understand that, work that in today's economic environment. The next thing is that you want to collaborate. So this is about closing the loop. You know, one of the holy grails that we always talked about in performance management and BI was closed loop BI. Being able to see something, find it, and fix it. Tying it all out in one system. And you know, we've seen some things here in the awards even this morning, and you probably see some good things when you talk to your colleagues about people that are doing this. Going all the way back to the ERPs and taking actions against that, going all the way back to supply chain management and taking action against that. But the whole thing is making this performance the DNA of your organization. What the ERP and CRM movement did was really do a good job of pushing operational excellence. Lean, Six Sigma, these type of things in an organization by using these systems for it. They did a great job at that. But what they haven't been able to do is transfer that over to what we do in BI and performance management. You need to have people that are going to, when they find the problem, embrace it. This is what a CPO is about, and make those changes in the organization. You know, some of this involves predictive modeling. We saw the award for predictive modeling today. I mean, this is a key piece, getting ahead of the curve. Imagine if more people had predictive modeling before what happened in the economy. I don't know if it would have saved any of us, but it might have been able to minimize some of the damages that we had there. But you need the metrics. You need the chief performance officer concepts of understanding these metrics and being able to manage them. Controller. And there's a lot of great sessions here about governance. And governance, stewardship, they go hand in hand. Again, consultants like myself will try to mystify things about all these great things about governance and all this, but in the end, governance is the rules and stewardship is the ownership. And if the CPO doesn't realize that and just tries to embrace it all, push it all with rules, say, well, I came up with these performance, now you need to kind of report this information without actually having data stewards to own all this stuff, you're going to be barking up the wrong tree for this. So people are not going to embrace it. If you think about what Obama did, he said, this is the guy, this is the metrics czar. He's going to tell you what to do. But by the way, every one of you organizations, and I've met over a dozen of these now, people in federal agencies, all of you need to have a chief performance officer who is basically like a metadata steward for each one of these. So he's not only forced the top down, which is governance, but he's forced the bottom up in his stewardship. You don't want to have to force stewardship in your organization, but if you have to in order to get it going, this is critical for the success of a chief performance officer in an organization. If you think about it, you're kind of controlling it from a middle-out perspective as compared to a top-down. Top-down is just making rules and sitting there and hoping your loyal subjects kind of follow those. And bottom-up is just, I'll keep an eye on my data. I'm not going to worry about anybody else's. CPO is kind of working from the middle out, making governance, making stewardship work together with one another. It ain't an easy job, because you become the tattletale for not only about problems in the data, but the tattletale for the people that aren't following the process. I have a slide here to talk about that in a sec. So, collector, consolidator, condenser, communicator, collaborator, controller. This is what a CPO is about. I don't mean to demystify what this whole concept is, but a lot of it is what we've been doing. But the big thing is getting the business on board to say it's so important to manage performance here that we need to create a discipline around this, of which BI, data warehousing, performance management can all be part of it. And really, you don't need to have some titled chief performance officer. You don't need to have some, fancy schmancy consultant like me helping out with it. It's really very much, understanding and embracing performance. Think about the knowledge management movement. Embracing performance like knowledge was embraced in an organization. Now, I said earlier, who's a CPO in the organization? I bet you more than half of you can say that you're doing most of this, if not all of this already. That's who the chief performance officers are in the organization. They need to take that and bring that up to the business to a higher level so we can manage the business from a top down along with all the great stuff that's happening from a bottom up. Now, what's a CPO's impact on performance? Well, a program, when you set this up, is going to have an obvious impact on the way people are going to do this. You're going to be the tattletale for stuff. Basically, it's if you think about again, go to I'm sorry, it's near and dear to my heart, but think about losing weight. If you keep a log of all the exercise you do and all the food you eat, you tattletailing yourself, you're measuring it. The CPO is really about you're going to measure people, and you need to understand that not everybody's going to react the same to this. I see it now because I'm consulting with a number of agencies in the government in that, oh, well, Obama told us to do this, so we've got a CPO, but we're not really going to do anything until they start looking at us even more. You need to be prepared for that. There's going to be organizations like that. And there's a very simple life cycle to this. And this I did this in one of Wayne's executives sessions about 1.5 years ago. That you have 4 phases that you go through when you do this. You got the shock and awe phase when, oh my gosh, they're going to be measuring my metrics. And they get into that panic mode. And you're going to see people, there will be a financial impact of that, just scaring the bejesus out of people. That they're going to be looking at this, I better monitor it. And then you're going to get kind of the change phase where, okay, we've made the initial impact and the metrics are kind of normalizing people, but not everybody is on board, and we're going to try to get those people on board for this a little bit more. But we're still going to realize that at some point, there's going to be an acceptance of the system and what we're doing. So people are going to say, okay, I see the dashboards, I see what you're measuring. I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to put much more effort